Yabutoy, and welcome once again to Came from Radio, the official of the Big Apple Con. This is your host, Mark Torres speaking. We are here at the Cradlecon of 2023 in front of a live studio audience. I am here with my co-host, Elman and Jane Felby.
Good day.
And we're here with our special guest we're going to be talking to with him about, which is awesome because he's right here. It's artist and really cool guy, Russ Braun.
Hello.
Also on this week's show, we're going to be having another Jay Bird release segment, and we're going to have another Chris Hicks segment as well. But before we do any of that, we have to take it away with the news. The news is brought to you in part by fine folks of the Big Apple Con, which we are the official radio show of, celebrating over 6 years of comic bookness and pop culture stuff. More information, go to www.bigapplecc.com. The next convention is scheduled for December the 16th as the Big Apple Christmas Con, and I believe tickets are on sale now. Also, our show is brought to you in part by fine folks of sci-fi.radio. That's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. And when I want to do our shout-outs for our Patreons, of which there are Danny Grillo, award-winning director Jared Burrell, Kyle Horn, Millie Cortez, Newsday famous Treasure Media, Orange Kun, Shout Out to Art, Yasmin Ray, Rosa, and the Huracan. You want to have your own little shout out, go to our website, www.camefront.com. Little button on there takes you right to our Patreon page. We would greatly appreciate it. So now we start off with the news. Let's see what we have here. From the everything is part of the franchise until it isn't department. None other than Michael B. Jordan is teaming up with Boom Studios to make a Creed sequel comic book series. Executives say the Creed comic book series begins 10 years after the events of Creed Part 3. Adonis is out of the ring, but not out of his game, as he trains, along with his manager wife, the next champion, his daughter, now an amateur boxer. But with Adonis and Bianca reluctant to pit their daughter against Amara, will have to find another trainer, someone who's not afraid to define Adonis, but still knows how to teach her to fight like a Creed. Who's up for the challenge of training a young boxer to become the next champion fighter? Creed number 1 of 4 is coming out of June of this year. Were you a fan of Creed series or Rocky there, Russ?
I've seen all the Rocky movies, but I haven't seen any of the Creed movies.
So no. Okay.
So no, I guess. I can't say no because I haven't seen it.
Well, you can say, well, if you haven't seen it, you say you're not a fan because you haven't seen it.
I suppose so.
What about you, Jennifer? Are you
Just trying to be diplomatic. Well, this is again brings back a deja vu with my dad in the dental office. I walk in, every time I walk in, hey, you remember this person? And my answer is always no. So no, of course I don't remember. But I will say the premise is that the parents didn't want the daughter to take on challenging opponents. But if you're not willing to take on challenging opponents, you're not only going to go so far in life. So you have to be willing to take on challenging opponents or you're going to plateau.
All right, fair enough. So moving on, from the That's a Lot of Nuts department. The new Guardians of the Galaxy movie has held on to the #1 spot in the domestic box office, putting in an additional $62 million in ticket sales in its second week of release. For those of you keeping track, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is still the highest grossing film of this year with $535.5 million and counting, followed by the new Avatar sequel with $283 million. Guardians have moved up from the 7th place to now the 3rd place in just 1 week. Did you manage to see Guardians of the Galaxy?
I haven't had a chance to see it yet either, no. I don't get out to the movies. I'm busy drawing all the time. So
You can't draw and watch, you can't work in a movie theater?
Not in the movie theater, no.
You can't have a little lighting?
They frown upon it with the lights overhead while I'm trying to draw.
What about you, Amanda?
I think the
See,
Super Mario Brothers should be the new Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what I think. And then they can take all the #1 spots together.
Okay, so moving on.
I mean, that's cool. With custodial management is in charge of the galaxy. Isn't that what Super Mario Brothers are? Aren't they janitorial staff? Well, to me they are, and they always will be. So I think they should be in control of cleaning up the galaxy. Final thought.
Okay, so moving on. From the, if you think about it, there's a record for everything department. Apparently, the new Guardians of the Galaxy film, as we just mentioned, now holds the world record for most prosthetics used in a film, a title previously held by the Jim Carrey film, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Filmmaker says, it took a village of 75 to 90 makeup artists on set to complete the looks. We had 2 people per prosthetic, so we could just keep the times down. On this, we used 22,542 prosthetics, 117 pairs of contact lenses, and 500 wigs. I didn't know people were keeping track of this sort of thing, and I think it's really interesting. I haven't seen the movie. It was like, it wasn't CGI, it was mostly practical effects. As an actress, what do you think about the practical effects?
Well, as a special effects makeup artist, it does make sense because you have to keep a tally of how much you're spending. So I'm going to be working on a film in 2 weeks, and there's going to be a lot of special effects, and they want me to bring my own equipment, but that's going to raise my fee. So yeah, of course you have to keep track, and special effects is very expensive. So I'm sure that raised the amount spent on the movie by thousands and thousands, if not millions.
So do you think that inflated the budget artificially because they said that they're going to use prosthetics and they just like to get the cheap stuff?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good little theory. I mean, because you can make prosthetics out of expensive equipment, or you can use cotton balls, or toilet paper, or tissue paper. You could use Costco tissue paper. You can use, you know what? Prosthetics can be super expensive or super cheap.
So what are your thoughts on that, Russ, as an artist?
I have no thought. No, just kidding. I always prefer practical effects to almost any CGI. So I'm all for it, and I'm kind of proud to hear that they did mostly practical effects and prosthetics.
Can you believe that it's in a Guinness Book World Record?
I can believe it. I'm surprised because you figure it would be like Lord of the Rings or something like that, where they had like thousands of works. But, and yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't see the Jim Carrey Grand show. I'm a traditionalist. Only Chuck Jones for me.
Yes,
so,
I've never actually seen that either. Did the live studio audience see the Jim Carrey How It's So? No, we're having no. Okay, nobody has seen it. Wait, we got one guy. One guy saw it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up, thumbs down. He's keeping the wave. It's like, yeah. All right, fair enough. So moving on. Also from the That's a Lot of Nuts department. I lost it.
That's a lot of nuts.
Wait, I lost it. Hold on.
Find his nuts. Someone help him find his nuts. Where are they? I can't find my marbles. He can't find his nuts.
A rare Pokemon card from 1997. The Trophy Pikachu number 3 Trainer Bronze card, to be exact, has sold at auction for $300,000. The card is one of 4 PSA certified copies that was only awarded to select participants in a Japanese tournament, making one of the rarest Pokemon cards in the world. Auctioneer says, the historical importance of this card has us confident it would do well, but the result exceeded everyone's expectation. This card was not in the booster boxes that were offered at the time. It was only available to trainers who finished the 3rd at the first official Pokemon Monsters tournament in Chiba, Japan, 1997. Now, we've talked about this many times on the radio show about how people spending an exorbitant amount of money for a collectible. And we've talked about how usually it's flat books, which is the books that are sealed and graded, so they can't even open it and enjoy it. But in this situation, it's a card. So, do you think that is well money worth spent or not? Oh wait, we're talking about Russ. What do you think about that?
Pardon me? Well, I spent more than that for my Charizard, so
Really?
no, I have no idea. I don't know Pokemon at all. Sorry. So
You got it for a
I have no opinion on that.
Well, as an artist, let's say as an artist, they used to do Marvel trading cards. Do they still do trading cards?
I think they do, but that seems like a lot of money for a trading card to me. I don't know. I mean, I'm all for people who want to spend money on collectible stuff, especially if it's my stuff they collect. But there are limits to it too. I mean, because how much value do you have for nostalgia? And the nostalgia that's only back to '97, that creeps me out a little bit, So sorry.
Unless he's using that card to pick locks. But I will tell you all a little anecdote about a friend of mine who's having a hard time. Instead of spending rent money, he spent it all on collectibles, and now he has to live in a place and share a bathroom with 9 other guys, so he can never pee or go to the bathroom when he wants to because he spends his money on memorabilia.
Wait,
and
is this
this person doesn't exist, but I'm just imagining this happening every time we hear about someone spending $1 million on a toy. I was like, is someone not having access to a bathroom because they spent their money on Pokemon cards? I wonder.
So the question I would like to ask is, if you spent $300,000 on a card,
Never.
what would you do with it?
sell it.
You would sell
For
it.
more, and then buy a house and live in it, right? Or
What would you do?
well, I couldn't do that.
Well, first of all, I would not do that. But if I did, yeah, I would look for opportunities to sell it, because displaying it in your home, you'd have to have it like if your home was a museum where you had people coming by on a daily basis to pay to see your.
Wait, so you would have so you would have a little museum section of your home
That's
and
what I
charge
do,
admission.
Yeah. It'd be like right over the mantle, like hanging there, and you have to come in.
They just come to look at it and then leave, right? How much would you charge for that type of thing?
$3,000, and I would need 100,000 people to come to make my money.
Yeah, sure. Is there parking at your house?
Parking's $25.
Okay. Yeah,
an hour.
squeezing out every week.
Wait, $25 an hour?
Yeah.
Or maybe these cards have like a spiritual, metaphysical property, and they can conjure money-making spirits and then make the money back. Or,
No.
I don't know.
They're just a card. They're just
That'd be
shiny. They're just shiny.
Well,
Ooh, shiny.
I'm not going to go X-rated. You go.
All right, so for our last bit of news, from the end of an era department, none other than Netflix has announced that it will shut down the DVD by mail rental service portion of its company at the end of September of this year. Executives say those iconic red envelopes changed the way people have watched shows and movies at home. They paved the way for the shift to streaming. It was a planned obsolescence. But to our bet, it was that it would take longer for it to happen than most people thought at the time. Our goal has always been to provide the best service for our members as the business continues to shrink, and that's going to become increasingly difficult. Now, as I mentioned on the show many times, I used to work at Blockbuster 10 years, and I was there during the time that Netflix started to come out, and Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix, and they're like, nobody's gonna want stuff in the mail, and they just want to go to the store experience. Here we are, Blockbuster's down to one store. Netflix is one of the biggest streaming companies in the entire world, but now they're ending the DVD portion, which gave them how it started. Isn't that weird how it started and it morphed and it changed to what it is now?
Yeah, I mean, and I still watch DVDs. I mean, there's stuff that I have on DVD that you still can't get streaming anywhere. Plus, the thing about streaming, I love it. It's the easiest way to do it. But every now and then there's a movie you're in the mood to watch, and you try to search what streaming service it's on. You finally find it, and they want you to pay like $6-7 to rent it. And I'm like, well, that's what I was doing before with the DVDs. So, and you just go, well, I just won't watch it then unless I have it on DVD. So,
What's the last movie you saw on DVD?
Exorcist. We watched it a couple of nights ago.
Yeah.
Just
There you
happened to
go.
have it. One of my favorite movies. So.
It was one of my scariest movies I ever saw. When I was a kid,
It still holds up. Yeah, I saw it way too early. I saw it at the age of 6.
Yeah, with the reverse riding on the stomach, that freaked me out for years.
I was in the, we were being babysat by some teenagers, and it was 1973. The movie just came out. We saw a double feature at the drive-in, saw Planet of the Apes, and then they're like, okay, now you guys go to sleep, and we're going to watch the other movie. You're in the backseat of the car.
Right.
You know? It's not like you can just go to sleep. The old, what do you call it, the amplifier thing.
Oh yeah, on the
in
side
the window.
yeah.
And so, yeah, my brother falls asleep, but I'm just between the bucket seats watching The Exorcist at 6 years old. So, might have something to do with the stuff that I draw and write.
Fair enough. So we're almost out of time for this news segment. Do you have any final thoughts?
I'm gonna mix the DVDs in my DVD, the records and the mixtapes, but we're gonna get together and we're gonna touch the DVDs for memories.
So with that, we're going to take our break. We'll be right back with Came From Radio in front of a live studio audience.
Everybody, I'm Todd McFarlane of the record-setting Spawn comic series. And if you're looking for any kind of cool conversation about creators, about entertainment, about all that good stuff, you go to It Came From the Radio. You're listening to the right spot.
Todd says so.
Hey, everybody, it's Todd McFarlane.
He didn't play all of them, sorry.
This is Quentin Flynn, a popular voice actor known for Axel, Timon, and Raiden from the Metal Gear series. And you're listening to It Came From the Radio.
Hey, I'm Mike Kingston, the writer and creator of Headlocked. And I am WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler. And guess what you're listening to? You're listening to It Came From the Radio.
Hi,
Hi, this is Amy Jo Johnson, writer-director from the film The Space Between, and you're listening to It Came From the Radio.
Now, back to our show.
And welcome back to It Came From Radio, the facility of Cradlecon. This is your host, Mark Torres speaking. We're here at Cradlecon in front of a live studio audience. I'm here with Jenny Cody, my co-host.
Good day.
And we're here with our special guest who's going to talk to us about Mr. Russell Braun.
Hello.
Now, I have known Russ for many years, and actually it's funny because if not for this man sitting next to me, we would not be here at the Cradlecon right now celebrating the release of my comic book, which took me 30 years to make, because Russ was my teacher at the comic book school that I went to, which in turn was where I met my co-host Hassan Godwin, which we went on to do the radio show for 20 years, and then I made this book as a result of that. So do you remember back then, me, the 30-year-ago Mark?
Absolutely. It was this small special effects studio workshop, and we did teaching. I mean, I always loved to teach. I didn't do it professionally, but my art school, I went to SVA, School of Visual Arts, and I have a master's, so I could teach, but the opportunity wasn't there. I was too busy working on comics, which is my excuse for almost everyone. Too busy drawing, too busy drawing. But the opportunity was there, and there were a lot of really talented, eager, passionate students, and you were among those people. So, and I got to see a lot of people over the years at conventions. They come up to me after all this time and be like, "Hey, remember that class?" And it's great to see a couple of you. Angel, Aviles does like these beautiful Topps cards and stuff now too. So a couple of people, got into the business. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
And what's really awesome is that for those of you actually at the Cradlecon right now, there's a giant image of the cover that he did for my book behind us on the, what was this called, IMAX?
I guess, it's kind of
on the
it's a
IMAX,
planetarium screen, really.
On the planetarium screen, so it's really awesome. This is his work on my comic book, isn't it? So once again, I want to thank you for that.
It looks like it's projected on the inside of the moon.
So Jen, you got a question for us?
Sure, okay, so I stalked your Facebook, and I saw that one of your friends' fans said that Jeopardy mentioned you. We can't prove it, but they said Jeopardy mentioned you, and they said something drawn by Russ Braun. So that means that if you were mentioned on Jeopardy, you're kind of famous.
Sure.
So, long-winded, famous people are often exploited and copied. How do you protect against it? Have you ever been exploited or copied?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't protect against it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of expect it. You hope for it in a way. If you do something that people appreciate and like, there's going to be imitators and stuff like that. But the best you can do, I think, is just carry on and create more stuff. But I don't worry about it. I don't worry about like people put watermarks on their stuff when they put stuff up on Facebook or social media. I put up a drawing every day. It's my thing. It's like the image of the day. So. On Facebook and Instagram, pretty much the same drawing. Sometimes on Twitter, but the whole Musk thing, I'm kind of not doing Twitter as much. I don't. Well, first of all, I don't really consider myself famous. I've done a bunch of comics. I worked on a bunch of Disney movies too. I took like 7 years off comics to draw animated movies for Disney. But it's that's like a big team effort. There's over 200 of us working on those movies. Comics is also a team effort. You've got you can do it yourself, but for the most part, you're part of a team: writer, artist, colorist, letterer. And
Lisa Cuthbert, all the images that were sent to you, part of our team to make this image.
The art direction that went into the cover that you see on the screen there.
Couldn't have done it without Britney Spears, right?
Britney Spears was also inspiration from Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, you can spend too much time worrying about that. That's kind of like some people fall back on that. Like before you actually create the image, you're worried about people ripping off the image. I don't know. It's nothing new under the sun. Something relates back to something else. You're inspired by this, inspired by that. There are people who are going to say that you are ripping off somebody else. They said, this is just like this artist, or this reminds me of this artist. And it's just people's opinions. So. Like another part of the body, everyone's got one. So, and that's what I have to say about that.
So, when you're working in an animated film, do they give you a section of film to work on, and you just have to draw each of those frames, or you just like, is it like a
it depends on
assembly line where you're like next?
It depends on your position. Because I was doing in-betweening and cleanup. So on Mulan, and you would get drawings from what happened before and what happened after. How far it was depended on the scene. So sometimes you get like of a scene that's going to consist of 129 drawings, 130 drawings. You might get drawing number 1 and drawing number 50, and you'd have to do drawing 25, and that kind of thing. You had an exposure sheet, X sheet, that showed where the dialogue was and where the frames were. Basically, everything was broken down for you. You just had to figure out what was drawn in that section. So, yeah, it was. I mean, it was a fascinating way to do work. It was, you know, traditionally hand-drawn stuff. It's all taken care of by computers now. I didn't like doing it that much. It was kind of a tedious job, but you got some, you know, beautiful effects out of it. You know, the hand-drawn stuff is kind of unmatched in a way. I think that with the computer models and the CG animation they do now, especially with Pixar and Disney, that they've made it their own art form. It's totally separate, but you can still never beat the old time animation in my mind, like Pinocchio and Snow White. Just, it's untouchable. But some of the stuff we did, you know, I look back on it and I'm like, I'm proud to have been a part of it, but I see like things changing and morphing, and you're like, oh crap, I missed that. You know, our team missed that. You know, but they're, you know, it's part of history. It's nice to have been a part of it.
So it's 36 frames per second, right?
24.
24 frames per second. So when you're watching a film, you pause it like, that's me?
Sometimes I can spot stuff, like especially scenes that I know that I did the bulk of, you know. I didn't work that much on some of the other films, like Emperor's New Groove. Our studio just helped out on that film, but there's a scene where Yzma is turned into a cat. And I know for a fact I did most of those scenes, and I can pause it and see exactly what frame I drew.
That's cool.
So, and the in-betweens are always sometimes awkward drawings. So, anytime Grandma in Mulan said the letter F, it somehow landed on my drawings because she didn't have an upper tooth; she had just one lower tooth. So, in order to say an F, you have to have an upper tooth. So you would just pop in the phantom tooth, and it was always my job to do that. It's like, ugh, kind of embarrassing. So.
Jenny, you got a question?
So you've clearly been successful for many years. So how do you overcome challenges and keep going?
I don't really know what else to do. You keep going because it's fun still, you know. Also, you got to make a living. So I've been lucky enough to make a living at art for the most part. My whole career, I really have a side job. I just draw. And if enough people still want you to do that, that's an honor. It's great to do. Yeah, compensation, it would be nicer if it was nicer, if there was more. Art fees aren't really going up while everything else is going up. So, and people are trying to squeeze us out to a degree. You know, AI stuff is getting more and more popular, and you hear all this doom and gloom about it. But I just think you just keep doing stuff that you love doing, and you'll find room for it. You know, if enough people find your love for it, they'll have a love for it too, and hopefully continue to support you.
So when you're drawing something, do you even take into consideration that this might be taken for AI? And you see something in AI, oh, that was my arm or my eye.
I don't even look at it. I really don't. I mean, I think you can drive yourself crazy doing that. I mean, but I'm not like a super stylized guy, I don't think. I mean, it's like, you know, someone like Mike Mignola, I mean, he has a set style, a certain style that if it was ripped off by AI, you would know it. You know?
Right.
If they ripped off my style, it would just look like, you know, semi-realistic comic book style, you know?
This reminds me of a story. It's sort of like, but it's an AI, but not really, because back in the day when we were doing conventions, as we still do now, there was this one guy, I don't know if you remember him, but he used to swipe other people's artists and say it was his, and he had like all different styles up, and he had like tables. So he had a Mike Mignola, he had a Jim Lee, he had a Tom McFarlane, he had a Neil Adams, artwork all behind him, and Calvin and Hobbes, they're saying it was all him. It was this one guy. And then people eventually caught on because the internet was still in its infancy. So people went up to the table and thought that he did all these different styles, like Peanut style, Marvel style, DC. And then eventually he started getting caught and word got around and he was banned.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what AI is. You're taking other people's stuff and putting it together and claiming it's yours.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difference in it. Sometimes, you know, you do an homage, you know?
Oh
It's
my,
like after the
yes.
style of, or and you give credit on the drawing. You know, I do stuff like that. It's like it's hard to jump on people about it because it's like I'll draw like Batman the animated series style stuff for fun. It's like I combine it with Disney experience and Batman experience and make up my own version. But it's Bruce Timm, you know. If Bruce Timm was angry with me for doing that, I would take it down, you know. But I'm not doing it as not professionally, like on a comic book. This is just for fun. But when you're selling that stuff, yeah, there's a problem with that. I think you're ripping somebody else off. You're taking money out of their pocket. So yeah, I disagree with that. And that's why I really don't agree with the AI. I'm not as down on it a lot of people are, as far as like, I see the value in it for people who have no artistic ability, but they want to get their point across. If an art director sent me AI sketches, let's say, of they had their words for prompts for what it is, like they can't get their point across to me, that could be valuable as a learning tool for me to know what they're looking for. But if you're just going to entirely cut out the middleman and put that out as your artwork, I mean, can you guys all recognize AI stuff when you see it now? It's almost all similar now, you know? So
It has kind of like glossy.
it's glossy.
film to it.
It's got that kind of computer game look to it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. As long as you can still spot it, it's not bothering me right now. So Skynet, whatever.
You know what's crazy? People say that, you know, AI is going to take away the jobs for artists, but also AI is going to take away American Sign Language because people will just do pictures and show you what they need to say, and they won't be signing anymore.
Huh.
No, I just made that up.
Oh. You sound very legitimate with that.
Thank you.
So, young Russ, did you always want to be animated? You always want to be in comics? You always
Yeah.
want to do it? That was what you always wanted to do?
Absolutely. Since I was like, before kindergarten, I think I was drawing. And for me, it was both animation and comics at the same time, because it was the Spider-Man cartoon, the 67 Spider-Man cartoon. And I would watch that in the afternoons on TV. And I was like, what, there's books of this? You know, so I found out about comic books, picked those up, and then I was drawing Spider-Man all the time. And all of the different characters. It's funny because the things that I've been drawing the longest are like Spider-Man, like war pictures, like soldiers, and werewolves. For whatever reason, those are my top 3 things to draw when I was a kid.
Werewolves.
So yeah, and I figured this was the plan. I got a little older, and there were other things I wanted to do too, but comics was always on the list. It was like I'd be a comic book artist, but then I'd be a baseball player, so I could only draw my comic books during the winter, the off season, you know. And then I was going to be a scientist too, like the professor from Gilligan's Island. I would know everything. I'd be that broad scientist like that. And write and draw my own science books too, you know, nature books.
Oh.
And all those things fell by the wayside. Just comic books lasted.
Well, technically, you could do a pseudoscience comic book right now. You have that ability.
Sure.
Or science.
Science comic book, yeah.
Science fiction.
Okay, so some people just make great artists. What would you say are 5 characteristics that make up a great artist or a working or a known artist, a
Okay.
successful artist?
What makes you, Russ?
Well, yeah, dedication
Okay.
to it is probably the hardest part, because you really have to get yourself up every day and be ready to do it.
Okay.
Because practice is the thing that gets you where you want to be. I mean, most people, they want to draw comics, like, oh, I really want to draw comics. And it's like, well, then draw comics. If you're not drawing all the time, you're not going to get any better. And you have to be willing to make mistakes so you can learn from the mistakes.
Right.
But if you don't draw anything, you don't gain any momentum in any direction. So and there's training. People like to talk about, I'm self-taught. Like, I wasn't self-taught. I went to school. But I think that was kind of smart, because I wanted to know how to do things, so I picked people's brains about how to do this stuff. If you say you're self-taught and you're looking at the internet, if you're looking at books, you're not self-taught. There's no such thing. If you're in a cave in the woods with a stick drawing in dirt, then you're self-taught.
Aliens.
You know? So the first person to thought to make pictograms, you know? So it gets on my nerves, people who like brag about that. I'm sorry.
No, it makes sense.
So what is that? Is that 2 or 3 things?
Yeah, let's call it 3 or 4. You can call it whatever you want. Keep going.
Passion for it is the biggest, really.
Okay.
Because if you care about it, you're going to do it, you know. And I guess really one of the last things is to be realistic. You know?
Okay.
I'm not like a realistic, like draw what you see kind of thing. I mean, be realistic about your abilities. Know if you're good, and know how far you have to take it to be better. You know, so it might not be your lane to be like the next Alex Ross. You're not that realistic or that dedicated to referencing things. I mean, he takes like all these pictures and sets up these. It's like kind of like the Norman Rockwell of comic book artists. You know, so but there's other ends of the spectrum. You don't have to be that kind of artist because that's what you like. You know, maybe you I mean, for me, in art school, I wanted to be Bill Sienkiewicz. You know, his stuff was like full of energy and excitement, and it was all different. It was like you could do anything you wanted to do technically and make it exciting, but I was always more restricted. Like I wanted to see exactly, like I had to make it look exactly like the thing, you know. So even though I was inspired by it, I didn't draw that way, you know. So you know, there are expressionistic comics. There's like, you know, Art Spiegelman, Mouse, you know, all this different stuff. These different techniques you can use. You don't have to pigeonhole yourself, and you don't have to think I'm terrible as an artist because I'm not as good as name Jack Kirby, whatever. So throw out any names. I've always, like, I joke about it. I tell people, like, well, who's the greatest comic book artist of all time? And they just tell you what their opinion is of like what their favorite thing is. And I said, well, you're wrong, because there's no such thing. There's no such thing. It's what you like, you know. A flavor of ice cream, you know, people will fight to the death over, you know, chocolate is the best flavor of ice cream. And people say, well, but then there's Rocky Road, and that's chocolate with nuts and stuff in it. But you're like, no, it's just what you like. So, and do what you like is the ultimate way to get things done. If you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to have a much better time out of it. Even if it doesn't sell or if it doesn't, you know, take off, you enjoy doing what you did. So, the best I can say.
So let's talk about the creative process here, because as I mentioned, you did do the cover of my book, which is right behind us at the Cradlecon. It's a giant sign. I had an idea of what the character would look like, which was based off of Britney Spears back in the day. As I mentioned, I made this book 30 years ago. Britney Spears was hot 30 years ago. That was who I had mentioned.
She's so not Britney Spears now?
What was that?
Have you seen Britney Spears now?
I said she was hot 30 years ago. That's what I said.
No, I hope you don't mean that, because 30 years ago she was probably like 12.
No.
If that. 30 years ago? Britney Spears?
No. Oh, 20 years. Sorry. I wrote the story 30 years ago, but the artist got it 20 years ago. Sorry. 10 years ago. So,
20 years ago.
So when I was coming up with the character, what they would look like, the artist was asking me, and that was 20 years ago when I got it drawn. I wrote it 30 years ago. Sorry. Thanks for the clarification.
Noted.
So when anybody ever asked me what do the characters look like, I always took the picture I had back then where I showed the original artist, and that's what I did with you. I showed you the picture of the artist, and I also showed you a pose that I wanted the character to be in. And then, luckily, Elman Jenny Feldy was going to cosplay as my character at an event, and she had sent me a picture of her in the outfit. So you took those images, and how did you come up with the image that we have before?
Well, yeah, put them all together. You had, you gave me visual reference, and then the other thing I needed from you was like character stuff, motivation. I'm like, who is this character? What is it? Because that's the part I like about comics, is bringing in the acting to it, you know, and the expressions and the feeling of it, you know. And you told me she's like, basically, it was like one sentence. You said something about her being a very pretty girl who doesn't know she's pretty and doesn't show off about it. Just kind of, she's comfortable in her own skin, but she's not like a show off. So that helped more almost than anything else, you know. And then, like I said, there was a pose, there were some names of like Britney Spears and different actresses, and then there was the cosplay pictures. And it took different elements of all that. The cosplay pictures brought the outfit into reality, so I could get like textures and ideas. It's like kind of like a sweater, as opposed to like a spandex, you know. So all those different little things filtered into it, and came up with a sketch, and a different sketch, The original pose was a good pose, but it didn't really fit on a vertical format that well. It was more of a horizontal, so I changed it up a bit. And also, use reference. Reference is great, but don't be a slave to the reference. So I took the basic idea of it and made it up my own way.
So what's interesting is that I've been talking to a lot of people who've been looking at the cover of the book, and 98% of people said that it looks like El Mente and Feldy. So I'm like, I didn't tell you to draw it like that. So was that a subconscious thing? Do you think that it sort of has her face?
It might be. It's funny because I kept the features kind of iconic, you know, and you know, archetypal, pretty comic book girl. So, but what I think the coloring actually made it look more like her than the actual black and white.
Is that what it is?
I do think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know the colorist. They did a great job. But,
yeah. Once again, I just sent the picture and I said, "Color that. Yeah. Go for it." And that's what they came out with.
But definitely, you know, there was reference there, pictures of you, and it worked. So it's.
And for the record, I don't think you look like Britney Spears at all when you shape or form. So that's why I'm like, I don't see it. I personally don't see it. Everybody else seems to. And now that you've seen it in color and you've seen her in person, do you also think that?
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It's genetic, cool. But again, as you said, archetypal. It's the typical comic book face. Yeah. Which I sort of have.
Your face has a lot of character in that, so that's helpful. If the artists going forward with this book want to do a good job, they should use you for reference.
Oh, well, thank you.
There you go.
Well, maybe that's why my face is the face of world tours. It actually is, but anyway. We'll go on. Back to you. So, as Mr. Successful Man, which I guess is the theme of all my questions, which has really never happened before, so cool. You're successful.
He's world famous.
Yeah, and he's on Jeopardy, apparently.
I should talk to you from my yacht next time. Yeah.
I'm his unofficial PR person, so I'm very long-winded, that wouldn't work. So, when you're successful, all these people want to work with you, they want to collab with you, or they want you to work for them. What people would you not want to collaborate with or work for where you're like, I see this, or maybe you send long text messages, so that's not going to happen?
Or is there something that someone had said for you to draw that you're like, I'm not drawing that?
Yeah, what's something you wouldn't do, or someone you wouldn't? But I wanted to know who you wouldn't collab with, like professionally.
I don't know professionally, like if there's any specific names of people.
No, not names, but characteristics of something.
But yeah, you know when something is legit just from a feeling of people. You know, there's people in this business that aren't really even part of the business that have like, I got this great idea. Yeah. It'd be great to draw this. And you know, it's not going anywhere. You know. Yeah. But it's really if it appeals to you. You know, I mean, I've done covers for people. I've done pinups for people that I just like. They were nice people. I thought maybe I could help out, be a little boost, or you know, with my incredible clout from being a successful person. But no, it's really about a feeling more than anything else. And usually, it's not even dictated by that. It's dictated by how busy I am. I mean, I'm usually working. I'm usually pretty busy. So having the time to do something for somebody else that's not a sure thing, you know? Yeah. And even I've turned stuff down from bigger comic companies too. So sometimes it seems like it might be a mistake, but it just didn't feel right at the time. I mean, they had contacted me from DC a while ago about doing a Nightwing book, and I wasn't really, I didn't really connect with the character. I was never a Robin fan. I was a Batman fan. So I never even investigated it. But I was really thankful for the opportunity, like the offer, the opportunity. But it's really about like something you connect with. You know? Kind of like if you were offered a role. I mean, it's like depends on how much is this role going to help my career, or how much is this role going to hurt my career, or possibly be like, you know, am I going to feel bad about myself from taking this job? You know? It's like, am I taking it for the money? Am I taking it for the exposure? For me, it's like only something I kind of connect with, something I want to do. So, and I've been lucky to be able to do that and not, you know, watch in like 5 years I'll be drawing like My Little Pony or something just because it's the only thing I can.
Hey, My Little Pony's kind of cool.
And actually, I actually had to draw a blank cover of My Little Pony a couple of years ago, which I thought was hilarious. It was like, I'll do it. Yeah, it'll be fun. So.
one of the things that I've known you for was you had this little sketchbook back in the day, and you had like some crazy images of dark and twisted creatures.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that, and whatever happened to was it flame burning?
Oh,
head or
Barney,
something?
yeah. Barney the Burning Banker was my college creation. So it was my thesis for my master's.
Really?
So, yeah. I did some highfalutin stuff. I did this character, Barney the Burning Banker. He was just this guy. His head was a skull. It was on fire. He had no lower jaw, so he couldn't talk back. And he suffered all day at the bank. But then he got to go home. So he was like the Prometheus character from Myth, chained to his desk, having the eagle, the vulture pecking at his liver every day that would regenerate. But in Barney's case, that was 9 to 5, so he could go home and rest and come back. So
was his flaming head on all the time?
That was my question.
It was constant. So
I need to know.
I didn't deal with the physics of it. You know, like I did have fire extinguishers around all the time in the background, but we never saw like whether he could, you know, whether he was in bed with like fire retardant sheets or something like that. It's just, it was a metaphor, you know. So, but then you can question: is it metaphor? Is it real? His boss, immediate supervisor, was called Mr. Avery, and he was the guy who could turn into the bird, like giant pterodactyl man, you know. But he would just hear the papers coming down the hallway at the bank in the guy's hands and picture paper wings, and then in his mind picture him as the giant vulture. So the story I did was very simple. Barney had one friend, it was his goldfish, and the goldfish's name was Beowulf. And he came home from work one day and Beowulf was dead. So it was the death of Beowulf. Yeah, again, like I said, it's highfalutin stuff. This is medieval literature.
I love it.
And so Barney is like, you know, very sad, obviously. He's about to put his best friend on the end of a spoon into the toilet and decides,
cremated him with
I
his
have
own
to.
head.
Well, actually, he didn't even do that. He did decide to give him proper Viking burial. He put him in a box of matches, took him to the East River, and floated him off into the East River and lit the box on fire. So he had like a proper Viking funeral. But he didn't even light it off his head. That's true. He struck the match. So I don't know if he's really on fire or not. But what happens is the box floats out into the East River and it hits an oil slick and lights the whole East River on fire. And so Barney like kind of hides and shuffles away, but in a way he feels like he did him a great service, like he really gave his friend the proper send-off.
So when are we seeing this animated feature film?
Oh, never.
No.
I actually want to do it as a stop motion animation for a long time, and actually make a little bronze skull that you could actually light on fire, so that each frame would be just shot with the fire. It would really flicker crazy, I would think.
But you're busy drawing?
I'm too busy drawing right now, so drawing other people's stuff instead of my own stuff.
So we have about 3 minutes left to go.
Sure.
Where can people find out more about your stuff? Social media, where can people hire you, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I'm all on all the different social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram. It's pretty easy to find. I think both of those are just Russ Braun 589. It's a number they assigned me. I don't know if there are 588 other Russ Brauns out there. But, yeah, like I said, I do a drawing every day. I'm currently working on comics. I'm trying to finish up Jimmy's Little Bastards, which is the follow-up to Jimmy's Bastards. Basically a James Bond spoof that Garth Ennis wrote, co-creators on this one, for a change, which is nice. It's what had happened if James Bond had actually slept around that much during his super spy career. He left a whole bunch of kids in his wake that he didn't know about or care about, and they decided to gather up and knock off Dad. So that was the first story arc, and now the next one is Jimmy's Little Bastards, where there are actual grandkids that come after him this time. So it's a lot of fun. It's very dark humor. It's an equal opportunity offender, and I hope you'll enjoy it if you ever see it.
All right, so Elma and Jennifer, we're almost out of time with a minute and 30 seconds
I
left.
would like to see Jimmy's Big Bastards. Maybe when fast food takes over more than it already has, we will see a realistic reality show called Jimmy's Big Bastards. I can play one of the characters if the price is right.
Well, the funny thing is, Jimmy himself has gotten a little big in the second. He's let himself go for the second, for Little Bastards.
Not so little.
Little play on words for that one.
So Russ, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners? You have a minute to go.
Your listeners, let's see. Nope, no final thoughts. No, I think it's great. It's just, I hope you guys all follow your passions and enjoy the stuff you love, and don't worry about what people think that what you love isn't cool enough or whatever. You know, it's like if any kind of fandom you're into, find people that enjoy it with you and have a community. It's like, that's especially what these conventions are about for me. It's
Right.
like meeting people who have read your stuff or are like-minded individuals is always a bonus. I appreciate it.
So my final thought is this. Thank you for being guest on the show, Russ. It's
Thank
funny,
you.
we actually did a live stream before live stream was a thing back at in Queens or Rose. Like, well, it's on my YouTube page, you can go check that out. Like I said, I wouldn't be here if not for you, so I really
That's
appreciate
nice,
it, and I really was like, that's why one of the reasons why I wanted you to do the cover was to bring it full circle, and,
Sure,
and you did an amazing job on the book. And I suggest everybody go and buy my book, not just because I wrote it, but because Russ did an amazing job on the cover. And it would really help us to make more. And if I could do issue 2, 3, 4, and 5, you also be the cover on that
Sure,
as
of
well.
course.
So that about does it for this week on It Came From the Radio. Join us right here and every week on our radio station. If you miss any part of the show, go to our website, www.itcamefromthe.com. The archives will be up in a week or so. I want to do a special thank off to Seamus and the Cradlecon and the live studio audience at the Cradlecon Live. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
You've been listening to It Came From the Radio with Matt Torres. The views of the show's hosts and guests did not necessarily reflect that of the management, owners, or staff of the station. We now return you to your earthly schedule.